Hello, guys. Hi, welcome to Sweet and Real. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm Rissa, and I'm here with the amazing Swag Her magazine. And guys, whenever you get a chance, don't forget to like and share Swag Her magazine on Facebook, and also follow them on Instagram. We have a little bit different show for you tonight, and I'm very excited about it. We have an awesome person that is going to be our guest tonight. And I'm excited. So I'm just not going to hold back anymore. And I would like you all to welcome attorney Jonathan S. Perkins. Let's get him connected. Mr. Perkins?
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm great. How are you tonight?
Good, good. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for being on. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Oh no, the pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Yes. So I'm excited. I just wanted to give the public, our listeners, just a little bit about you, just a little bit of background info. I know that you're a public academic higher education attorney, a lecturer, and a podcast host. Some of your commentary on current events and social issues have been featured in Associated Press, Daily Progress, ABA Journal, and numerous media outlets. So that's pretty outstanding. And that's just a brief summary about you.
Mhm.
Would you like to add anything else to that?
Oh, I mean, we all try to, people in this business try to stay pretty busy. So I work, my 9 to 5 is at UCLA. I'm in their diversity and inclusion office.
Uh-huh.
I work with the head of diversity and inclusion for UCLA. But as you mentioned, we have our podcast on the side that I do. It's called Black and, just with the ampersand symbol. And it's my younger sister and I that host it. And so that could be a full-time job in itself. So we do that, keep us busy, as well as all the sort of the activism and lecturing and advocacy that you mentioned. So yeah, it's been we're busy.
Oh wow, that's a pretty busy schedule. Now this podcast, it kind of grabbed my attention.
Yeah,
Black Men.
yeah, yeah.
Exciting. Yeah. Could you and you host that with your sister?
Yeah, that's right. So it's my youngest sister. So there's about 8 years between us.
Oh.
And we wanted to put together a podcast that was from the sort of millennial perspective about
Mhm.
race. I'm the older millennial, and she's at the younger end of that. And so we weren't hearing from many voices of people of our age and sort of persuasion. We're half black, half white. We have a
Mhm.
white mother, so that puts us in an interesting position to be able to talk about race. And so we were trying to
It
think,
does.
yeah,
It
we were trying to think of all of the things that we could name our podcast. And so we're saying we're black. We want it to be, it's about race, so black and something else. And we kept saying all these other things, and we just said, why don't we just call it Black and? Because it's so
I
many
get
things.
it. I get it now. I get
Yeah,
it now. And I love it. I love
yeah,
it. And
we've had fun.
whatever else whatever you want to add to that, that is great. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. We've had a bunch of great guests. It's usually my sister April and I, our take on sort of an issue or two that's happening, and
Mhm.
then an interview with a guest. We've had the head of the Pennsylvania chapter of the ACLU on. We've
Mhm.
had a minister on. We've had a school principal. We've had a bunch of people that are experts in their field. Folks from the media, but everything is through the lens of how race and white supremacy informs things, and it's our audience is overtly it's directed at white people who want to do better, because there's not enough people speaking clearly to white people and directly to them. It's this sort
Uh-huh.
of a lot of times broad advice is given to fix racism as if anyone in this country could be racist,
Yeah.
and anyone in this country can fix it. But we know that the way that race is structured in this country, it moves in one direction. It moves
Yes.
from white people to other non-white people because of the way that this
Mhm.
is set up. And so we think that it's on white people to fix this.
Yes.
And so we wanted to talk right to them. So we get pretty blunt about it. We've hurt some feelings for sure, but it's
Oh.
more friends than enemies made.
Maybe so. So you have a wide range of the age for this because your sister is 8 years
Yeah,
younger than you.
yeah,
you guys are reaching all types of the age groups, correct?
Yeah, we are. So I think podcasts generally the audience tends to skew a little younger, because people that are my parents' age and the sort of baby boomer and after age, podcast is still sort of a new thing to them. It's new to me still, really. I'm 34, so
exactly. Me too.
right. And so, so I think we started with a much younger audience, but I think it's been branching out a lot now as we've been seeing a bit more success and have had some big name folks on that people know and recognize, who follow the news. And so our Instagram account is our biggest source of sort of recruiting new viewers and communicating with people that are our subscribers. And so we're at Black and Podcast, and that's all, of course, spelled out. No, we didn't, of course, think about that when we're making our name that uses the symbol. But so at Black and Podcast on Instagram, we've been recruiting folks that we kind of consider our little, social justice army at this point. And so we got all age ranges and types of people. So I'll note that my mom and her YMCA pool aerobics group listen to it together. So
that's awesome. And I find that Instagram is it kind of attracts a younger audience. So Instagram is kind of the hot territory because the young people know how to, they're more tech savvy than
I think so. I'm, which was a surprise to me because I'm the age of Mark Zuckerberg's my age, right? Like, so we're the age that invented Facebook, I think. And so that was still my go-to thing. And I didn't know anything about Instagram really, but now I've been put in charge of finding people to appear on our podcast and promoting it. And my sister does all the production. So we split up the duties that way. So I'm getting pretty
awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're talking about this podcast. I'm really, really looking forward to listening to one of your podcasts. So can you tell us the date and time, the day and time that you come on?
So we
what platform you're going to be on?
You can find it. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're in Spotify, Stitcher, all the places that you listen to podcasts. If you just search Black and with the ampersand as one word, it should come up. If that doesn't come up, maybe add our last name, Perkins. On some of these other Stitcher and smaller outlets, we haven't gotten enough listenership yet to appear at the top. But Apple Podcasts, it's right there. And we make our episodes are usually once every 3 weeks. And we just finished our second season, 1 full year into this. And so we're taking a few months off, but all of our podcast episodes are meant to be resources and tools that are freestanding. And so I encourage people to go back and listen to the first episode because we lay out our sort of rules of the road as we see them. And so, it is, it's not like we're following necessarily daily news. They are sort of freestanding tools that people can use. And we've gotten actually some feedback of folks that are using them in anti-racist training courses and things like that. So that's nice.
Okay. All right. And the date again and the time?
So we don't have a set date or time that comes out, but it is every 3 weeks. So the most recent one was this past week on Wednesday. Usually, it's usually right in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Once you sort of get connected to us, it's one of the things where we just drop them as they're ready, and so it usually ends up being about every 3 weeks. If it gets any longer than that, we get people asking when the next one's coming out. So.
Of course, I'm sure they do. It sounds very interesting.
We have fun with it.
And I know that brothers and sisters can really have great topics together.
Well, so that's the big thing with it is that I think there has to be other brother sister sort of podcasts out there, but I don't know of any, and I think that is the most consistent piece of feedback that we get is people just love the interaction that we have. You can tell that I'm her older brother by the way that we talk to each other, and you can tell that she's my younger, much smarter, much more attractive sister, and she just, completely puts me in my place from time to time. So it's good. I think our rapport is good. Our last, our season finale for this second season, which came out last week, we featured just a full-length interview with our whole family. So with our mother, our white mother, and our sister, the middle sister, Jubilee. So it was the four of us, and we were we just named the title A Family Affair because it was quite the it was like sitting around the dinner table with us. So it was a good time.
Yeah, amazing. That's wonderful. That sounds great. I'm gonna have to definitely go back and
Please. Let me know you.
so let's talk about some of the current events that's going around the world today.
Sure.
And maybe you can elaborate a little bit on it, how it has influenced your work and your experience. Let's talk about something like the George Floyd incident or COVID or something like that. Let's start with the George.
Yeah. Well, so I think it's so interesting that George Floyd, I mean, I call it a lynching because that's what it was. The sort of extra, outside of the law, extrajudicial killing of someone because of a wrong that they did. That's the definition of a lynching. So that's what I think that this was. And so, the rise up sort of after that, and the marches, the sustained marches that we've been seeing around the country for weeks and weeks and weeks, which mind you are still going on. They're just they're not on the news anymore. There's cities that are on the news because they're making waves, like in Portland. But we're out here. I'm out here in LA. I live in Hollywood, and it is there's still protests every night. And so I think related to COVID, it's interesting. The fact this sort of sustained protesting that we are seeing, I think we're seeing the sort of buildup of a lot of things, of people being unhappy about the state of race relations, unhappy about watching this man being suffocated on TV. Because of COVID, we're all in our living rooms. We're sort of trapped here watching this. And it was one of the most sort of horrific cases because you could hear this man narrating his death. You could hear him pleading, saying, I'm about to die. You're going to kill me. And then he did. And so, that in combination with the pandemic that's going on right now, I think really made it so people were like, you know what, I am going to go out and protest because one, I don't have work tomorrow because this was back right when this was happening. And two, we've been in front of our TVs just watching this over and over on loop. And so I think people are pretty fed up. And so in the beginning, we saw a lot of in various cities, we saw some violence and looting and things that happened. And that, that's always, I don't mean to be dismissive of people who lost property or whose businesses were harmed, but that happens in every protest, literally. And as I've written and said before, looting is a term that white America uses to cast a shadow on actions that they don't like. It's called other things when white people do it. When Penn State wins the championship in football, those students flip over cars and light things on fire and throw bricks through windows, and I've seen it. And it's not called looting; it's called celebrating. That's over a win. And so, as people who are smarter than I have said, America, to the extent that the looting that happened in the protests these past few weeks was connected to the protest. I don't think that it was necessarily. A lot of times it's outside people coming in and doing things, but to the extent that it was connected to the protests, and I'll get crap for saying this, but can you blame Black people? Can you can you blame Black people for everything that has happened in this country and everything that has the anger that has been built up and the sort of the sort of way, the betrayal of all the sort of promises that were supposed to be kept and the rights that were supposed to be assigned to us still don't mean anything, And so to the extent that they were connected, I think that people are fed up. And so I think people are also hungry. It was COVID still. People are losing their jobs. And people were, stealing and because out of necessity, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you mentioned angry because I think with all that was going on with the COVID, we had a lot of people losing loved ones and everything. And then on top of that, with the George Floyd incident, I think just sitting watching it, I know as for me personally, just sitting watching it, it made me very angry.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, well, I know a lot of people were angry over the situation. That's where the looting or the riots and all of that
Mhm.
comes in.
Yeah.
So type of advice could you give the angry Black people?
Well, I get called an angry Black person just about every day. So that is, I don't know that I'm in a good position to give advice, but my thing is, I was always so I sort of emote to anger. I default to it. That's my go-to. A lot of people get sad. A lot of people get scared or nervous. I get angry even when I see little stuff. And so when big stuff happens, I get completely out of, unhinged. And so
Right.
yeah, but what I will tell people is anger isn't always a bad thing. Anger is a really
I
good
agree.
motivator and a really good tool. And
Mhm,
so
mhm,
if you know you talk about, I mean, you think of people like Congressman John Lewis, who just passed away, and he is famous for saying, we
mhm,
should be getting in trouble and getting in the way, but good trouble, get out and get in good trouble. And so use your anger and go out and do that, but to the extent that things
mhm,
are that you're breaking the law, what I will tell people of color that get angry, is
mhm,
look, the system and especially our carceral system, will use
mhm,
every excuse it can to shut down your movement and our movement. And so if you break a law, if you're jaywalking and doing it the wrong way, out of
mhm.
anger, you're going to get arrested for that. So in order for you to be the most effective in your protesting, you do have to, what I find annoying, abide by these rules that are sort of arbitrary, but we know will be used, get to sort of check us. And the last thing I'll say with that is, there's a difference between peaceful protesting and nonviolent protesting. So
Uh-huh.
not all. So the best protests are not peaceful. The point is that they're not peaceful. They're disrupting the
Yeah.
peace.
Mhm.
But they're nonviolent, and that's the difference. Violence is force. Violence is harm physically to someone. But to block a highway, that's not peaceful. But that's what a good protest. It's supposed to shut
Definitely.
down. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's supposed to. Black people in this country can't protest correctly. We know that, right? So whatever we
Correct.
do is we kneel at a football game, that's unpatriotic. We march in the streets silently, that's we're blocking traffic. We vote as a way to control things, and our votes get suppressed. And so there's no way to do this that is going to satisfy the sort of larger white powers that be in the country. It's just
Uh-huh.
trying to minimize as many of us that'll get punished for it, I think.
Yeah. Well said. I think that was some very good advice. So I just want to move to another subject
Yeah.
and ask you, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I read something that you said. You said that people that say respond to Black Lives Matter and with the response in All Lives Matter is
Mhm.
saying that Black lives do not matter.
Right. Yeah. To me, it just makes so much sense. It is, and I get so. It took me a while to figure it out when Black Lives Matter first surfaced as an organization and as a
Mhm,
movement back
mhm.
in 2015. For people to say, "Well, no, all lives matter," and it's like,
Right.
what,
Mhm,
Black lives not part of all lives to you? Is that like not your? So
mhm,
when I hear people say that, it's like, right, all lives do matter. That's correct.
mhm.
Black lives
Right.
are part of that. So right now we're focusing on them, and so it is a way to erase the unique situation that Black people are in and say, no, bad things happen to everyone, and all
Mhm,
of their lives are valuable. Black people are no different than all lives. And that's not true. In this case, in this country, we know Black people are not the same as all people when it comes to rates of stopping by police, arrest, abuse, conviction. sentence. They're all, correcting even for money, for geography, for income. Black people get the worst rates of all of those things. And so to focus on them and say, hey, Black Lives Matter shouldn't be a controversial statement. If you think anything other than, yeah, okay, that Black lives do matter. If you think anything other than that, that's a problem when you hear that. And so, I think that it is what I found is a lot of the time white people in this country try to think of ways to make racism a universally sort of human characteristic that everyone has. Like I said this earlier, anyone can be racist. Anyone can. All you have to do, as long as you're mean to someone because of their race, you are racist. And so that's not what it is. And so it is. When I hear people say all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter, it sounds like they're trying to say, yeah, but this isn't anything special. We should be thinking this way for everyone. And it's just not true. When one house is on fire, you call the fire department for that house. You don't point to other houses in the neighborhood that aren't on fire and say, well, these are important too. They are, but they're not on fire. So you got me worked up. This is my
That's a pretty heated subject, and a lot of people, it's a great subject because a lot of people like to talk about Black Lives Matter. Yeah. And when you bring it up, you have a lot of different opinions and thoughts and theories on it. But in the end, Black lives do matter. And that's the whole point that we're trying to get across.
Simple.
They do matter. Yes.
You think it'd be simple.
Yes. It's just that simple, but some people just don't get it,
I agree.
Yes. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about your experience at UVA, please? I know it's long and lengthy, but if you can.
Yeah, of course.
I know it was, I read about it, very interesting, but I just would like you to elaborate on it and share with the guests that are listening about your.
Sure. So I'll just put in context that this was before Black Lives Matter. This was before the sort of larger racial consciousness that about policing that we have in this country. But I was a law student at University of Virginia in Charlottesville, which was the site of the white supremacist marches a few years ago down in Virginia with torches. And I was in my last semester there in 2011, and I was basically stopped and harassed by police. And I wasn't hurt. I wasn't beat up or anything, but harassed and humiliated for no reason, like so many Black people are, especially Black men. And I wrote an op-ed about it, as I've been known to do, and it basically turned into a huge investigation of the police trying to figure out who these two cops were that did this to me. And there's a ton of detail, but basically the FBI secretly became involved and took me into a room at the law school and pressured me to reverse what I had said and to recant and to say basically that this had not happened and that I had made it up. And so it's something that I wish could have gone differently. It's something that really got me interested in higher education work, because these are these university police officers that did this. It also got me really interested in law enforcement, because it was happening to me right in front of my eyes. I heard stories about the FBI getting people to admit to things that they didn't do, or false, confessions. We hear about that all the time. And here I was, that was happening to me just as I was sitting there. And so it became a huge sort of scandal. Of course, the media reported on it as young Black kid, law student makes up story of police harassment, cries wolf. There was no mention of the FBI, no mention of being pressured to recant. And so that was a huge sort of issue for me in my life for the next few years. I had to go through a series of judicial proceedings within the university, and within I had to take the bar exam to become a lawyer. You have to do a judicial process if you have any outstanding sort of red flags. And so I've sort of made it through that process and I'm out on the other side, but it was very much, I wasn't able to talk about it for years and years because of, threats that were made to me basically by these federal prosecutors that are in the area and the FBI agent. And I had my own lawyer that told me just shut up and don't talk, don't go on a Facebook Live and do an interview. But now I'm free to talk about it now that the truth about it is out in the open and that people know that the FBI was involved and we did it secretly and off the books and just to help the school out.
That's a pretty interesting story. Where can people find the full story at, Mr. Perkins?
Sure, yeah. So if you just type my name and the words UVA or Virginia into Google, one of the stories will come up. But I've given interviews and written about this. The Daily Progress that you mentioned did a big story on it. The Associated Press did a huge story as well during back in 2017. So you can, if there are too many stories about this that have been written, so trust me, you will be able to find them if you go.
We'll find it, yes. Yeah. And that's great that something like that is is that incident what made you want to be a lawyer?
So this happened at the end of my law school, my time at law school. So I knew I wanted to be a lawyer ahead of time. I just didn't quite know what kind I wanted to be.
Okay.
So but I definitely going through that process, I'm like, oh, wow. So there are lawyers that represent and advise the school and tell them how to do things and tell them how to get through these sticky issues. That would be really interesting. And so I sort of got into that. But I'm actually technically not practicing law in California right now. My job at UCLA is I'm an administrator, but I do. I was a lawyer in another life a year or so ago.
Okay, well, this is very interesting.
Yeah, that's when people ask me what I do for a living. And it's like, I don't know, a lot.
That sounds wonderful. That's a great career to have, Mr.
Yeah,
Perkins.
right.
Yeah. I'm just really thrilled to sit here and talk with you. I'm going to get ready. I know I can keep talking to you, but I'm not going to hold you much longer, Mr. Perkins. Before we get ready to go, is there anything you would like to share with the listening audience tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is really incumbent on all of us to not get complacent and to not think that this sort of wave that we're seeing, this resurgence that we're seeing of Black Lives Matter and of focus on policing is not squandered. I want us to continue to protest and continue to march in the streets and continue to demand justice. It's been 4 months and Breonna Taylor's murderers who are police officers have not been arrested. Their names are Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hankinson, and Miles Cosgrove. We need to call them by their names and demand that they are arrested. These people, we are taught or we're shown every day, even in the midst of a movement that is about supporting and advancing and protecting Black lives, we're showed and it's illustrated to us that Black lives still do not matter in this country. Can you imagine if police officers had kicked in the front door of a blonde hair, blue-eyed woman in Beverly Hills in a gated community and shot her in the dark? Can you imagine if her police officers, if they would still be out on the street 4 months later? It just is something that I can't even comprehend. And so, we think about George Floyd, that's another example. Think how many Black men have been murdered in the state of Minneapolis over the year, or in the state of Minnesota over the years.
Yes.
Dozens and dozens, right?
Correct.
George Floyd's, the officer that killed him, he's being charged with manslaughter. That's the first white officer in the history of the state that is being charged with murder. Can you believe that? That is just absolutely unacceptable. And so the people don't understand that this is how often this happens, and that it's still happening, even if it's not on the news. And even if we did a huge few months of protests and they're sort of dying down now, it's still happening. People like, Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hankinson, and Miles Cosgrove, who killed Breonna Taylor, wouldn't even remember that they did that if people weren't protesting. That would just be a day on the job for them. And that would have been, oh yeah, I had to fire my gun once and it was this time. And they wouldn't even really remember it, But her family is waiting and had to come home and clean up her room that was covered in bullets in her own blood. And so I'm not going to be done until I know and am assured that when I hear about something like that happening, I can say, oh, well, at least I know those people will pay the price for it. And right now we don't know that. And so I would just, I could go on and on, but my big thing is it takes all of us to do this. And I think it's particularly incumbent on white people to do that, to fix these issues, because not only is it their moral responsibility to sort of fix what they made here, all the rules, but they have the power to do it too. If we as Black people could end racism, we would have already. And so we are trying. We do need help though, and it's embarrassing, and I hate to ask for it, but we do need them. And that's my sort of stance. And so I am happy to keep using our platform through the podcast and through things like, in interviews and conversations like this to encourage people to keep up the fight and keep, like Congressman Lewis said, getting in good trouble, because, it's not, these things aren't going to be corrected without a jolt to the system. This is a cruise liner that's headed down, toward an iceberg that isn't gonna, you don't just tap it and have it go the other way. It takes a jolt to the system. And so that's what I hope that this last couple months have been, but I don't want it to fade away.
Yes, exactly. I hope you guys caught that. I love this. Like you said, keep protesting, get into good trouble, like that, those are very strong words, and you have to understand what is meant by that. In case someone don't understand that, break that down one more time for me, Mr. Perkins.
So by definition, everything that we do in the fight against white supremacy is going to be viewed as trouble, because white supremacy is the status quo. That is the norm in America. So anything that we do that combats that is going to look like law breaking, policy violations, guidelines, things that rub people the wrong way, places where we're too loud, places where we're inappropriate. It's going to look like trouble and bad and negative actions. But since it's for a righteous cause, since it's for dismantling white supremacy, it's good trouble. That's why Congressman Lewis, go look up his mugshots from the multiple times he's gotten arrested. He was smiling in all of them, because he knew he was in trouble. Is a mugshot, but it's good trouble. He was on the right side of history, and he knew it. And so there's no better example than he is about getting in the type of trouble that makes change. Sometimes that involves getting arrested. Martin Luther King, he got arrested more times than we can count, right? He's a criminal. What the people at the time would tell you, he's a criminal. He broke, committed crimes. But he was getting in good trouble left and right, and he was killed for it. And we owe it to him and to John Lewis and to Medgar Evers and all the other folks who were killed for this same thing to keep getting in good trouble in their name, and until this isn't something that we have to worry about anymore.
Yeah. Well, you heard it straight from Mr. Perkins, guys. Get into some good trouble around here. And with that being said, I think we're going to get ready and just close out the show, Mr. Perkins. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for enlightening us. Just thank you for your words of wisdom. We're definitely going to have you back again one day.
I was going to say, thank you so much for having me. The pleasure is mine. We have to do this again for sure. And we have to have you on the podcast.
I would love to. I'm excited, and I will start watching it. So, guys, don't forget Black Ann. Find that podcast. Go online, Jonathan Perkins, and the podcast is Black Ann with his sister. And what is your sister's name?
Her name's April.
And his sister, his beautiful sister, April. I'm looking forward to hearing that, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about some of the work and the good things that you're going to be doing and all of the good trouble that you're about to get into, Mr. Perkins. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thanks so much.
Yes. All right. Thank you. You have a good evening, Mr.
You
Perkins.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, guys, again, thanks for joining us on Sweet and Real. Tonight was a little different, but very, very informative and very interesting. A really great man, Mr. Jonathan Perkins. I've never met him, but it was awesome. It was awesome to just sit and chat with him and learn what's going on in someone else's mind and in their hearts. Everybody has a story. So just take a little time to listen to it. So remember, guys, always be strong, stay wise, and always pay it forward. You can email me at sweetandreal2020@yahoo.com. If you have any questions, comments, topics that you would like to hear about, just give us an email. Next week, Tara will be back and she will be joining us as we take on the topic of bitter or better. Life is good, guys, and sometimes we go through things. But the things that we go through sometimes, um, does it make you bitter or does it make you better? So that's something to think about. I don't know. It's hard. You know how they do the saying sometimes, if you get lemon, make lemonade. So maybe that's kind of what that bitter and better is, we'll be discussing. So once again, a huge, huge thank you to attorney Jonathan Perkins. And thank you to Swag Her Magazine for this wonderful platform. And I think that will be all. Don't forget to like and share, like Swag Her Magazine on Facebook, follow Swag Her Magazine on Instagram. And I think that'll be it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. And don't forget, I am Rissa, and I am your forever Mrs. Louisiana with the awesome, amazing Swag Her Magazine. Y'all stay classy out there, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.